The sisterhood draws women from many worlds to advance our species and govern the future.
So first, I wanted to ask you two about collaborating together, because I know you've crossed paths before, but working together, especially in these roles on a series, I have to imagine is a completely different experience. So can you each tell me something new you learned about the other as an artist while making Dune Prophecy?
Dying to hear this.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Olivia has the most incredible intellectual instinct for really mining, mining something in an interesting way, and absolutely paying attention to all parts of the story. So you're actually telling the story that needs to be told, and you're not, it's a great skill, and it's really, she's just proper smart. Really proper smart, and
such a good act. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Well, it's that, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because I do approach things, and Emily and I have a similar history in theatre and film, and you would think that we approach work in a similar way, but actually it couldn't be more different. And what was wonderful to discover working with Emily, she has an emotional response to a situation, but I think we both have a tremendous sensitivity to what the atmosphere like is in the room around the camera. And I think we both have that thing where we have to be at peace with the people, is lighting okay? Sound okay? Is everybody happy? And then we can do our thing together, with that tremendous sense that we're all being creative at the same time, which I love. It's a sense that you have from theatre of leading a company. It's like what you see happening in front of the camera should be reflected warmly throughout the cast and crew.
Ooh, I appreciate that awareness and that being a priority. So clearly I love forcing collaborators to give each other flowers. So I'm going to add to this a little bit. Again, you have worked together before, you know each other well. Can you each tease something you saw the other do on the set of this show that made even you stop and go like, damn, I knew you were good, but never realized you were capable of that?
The way that Olivia, she has a lot of stuff where she's dealing with scientific discoveries and all that, and the way that she's just so effortlessly natural with that is just, it's a little bit breathtaking, actually. And it makes it so interesting. It's like you really, really want to know what that bit of the story is. You want to know what she's, where that's going to lead. Yeah.
It makes the viewer believe, too.
Thanks, guys. My parents were lawyers, so I was like, learn the terminology. But yeah, there's a wonderful scene where Emily marches through a group of people and kind of just takes them out with a flick of the hand on each side. And watching those incredible stunt people, like she would just, with a look and a flick, and they would fling across the floor and die. It gave me such a kick. To see you exercising your superpowers. It's like, we are masters of the universe.
I love it. You are a force in this show, without a doubt.
It was fantastic.
So now, to dig into your characters here, I'm going to give you a big two-part question. When you're preparing to play sisters, is there any particular quality that you wanted both of them to share so that the audience always feels their relation? But then also, what are particular qualities you wanted them to have to show how completely different they operate in this world?
Go on.
Well, I just feel very strongly that, there are certain things we have, as you see us sitting next to each other. There's a baseline of sisterhood that was so lucky that we could jump off from. And we're kind of sisters in that we're both represented by the same agent, who's kind of like this all-consuming, marvelous person who we call our guardian agent. And so we feel like sisters. And so from that baseline, we didn't have to act the baseline, I feel. And so we could take our differences off. And I'm a younger sister, so I just fed in all my insecurities about that.
I'm obsessed with the idea of a guardian agent. That's
that's I stole that off Emily. That was Emily's word.
Yeah, she's amazing. I think that these two women have, we obviously have shared trauma in our past. We have have had a really, really difficult upbringing, and Valia is driven by a sense of vengeance. But I think another thing that really binds them together is they have shared secrets that, were they to come out, would absolutely destroy everything. So those are the ties that bind. We know where the skeletons are buried, and you might present as this beautiful motherly angel, but I know things. And it's not just love; it's kind of we're bound in blood.
And in one of the other interviews we gave, I referred to family love as an oxymoron.
In this case, that definitely applies. Ooh, I'm so excited to dig into. I know some of those secrets, but I know I haven't even scratched the surface of your characters.
More to come.
One thing that we do get to see pretty early on in the show, Emily, is you wielding the voice.
Yes.
And I know that there is some work done in post on that, but can you walk us through certain things that you could do on set with your voice performance in the room and also physically to make us feel the power she wields?
I actually worked with a voice coach to just kind of try and have that sense of just inhabiting your own power in your own voice so completely that you feel utterly in command and resonant in a way. But the sisterhood is all about getting control of your own biology in a way, and you're controlling your own mind, but getting inside your own molecules so that you can access your DNA, that you can do all these extraordinary things. And one of those things is being able to have a physical effect on somebody else's mind through the sound of your voice, and that being a very, very powerful tool. So it's kind of got a sort of a pseudoscientific basis. So just the belief that I can stop you in your tracks and make you do something is there, but obviously then, it's treated in post-production. But as Olivia was saying earlier, you have to really physically produce a sound that is not your normal, is kind of extraordinary in some way.
Can you give me a specific technique you use to make it sound differently? Mainly so I could take it and then try to use the voice down the street, which wouldn't be awful.
Listen, we'll give you a little voice session afterwards. To do with grounding the voice, moving it from the throat to the chest to your literally was it your first bandha or whatever it is, the yoga expression. It starts way down in your body.
I have no control over any of this, which is why I sit in this chair and celebrate all of your hard work. Olivia, for your character specifically, one thing I wanted to ask about was how she operates as a leader, because early on in the season, she gets an opportunity to essentially lead the sisterhood. So what would you say is the biggest difference between how Tula leads compared to Valia, maybe even something that makes her a stronger leader?
Valia has incredible confidence. And as an older sister, that is crippling for the younger sister. And I think she has waited all her life to come out from behind the shadow. And I think then when she's suddenly handed the keys of power, literally, she is a bit of a rabbit in the headlights. She is terrified and lacks the confidence to see it through, which it is good that she has more compassion, but she doubts herself, and that is such a sort of feminine trait that we need to work on, even in 10,000 years' time.
I run a school for young women. We're not a threat to anyone.
All right, Chris, you're getting my first question here because you are playing an Atreides, and that is a very, very big deal. So at this point in the story, what does it mean to Kieran to be part of House Atreides?
Well, House Atreides is in a very different place from what Dune fans will know from the movies and the books. It's not quite the established house that it becomes. He is still dealing with the name Atreides from his uncle Vorian, who's a great war hero, and that is how he garners some respect, but he's very much out on his own at the moment, and he's using his name for good, I think.
given we've seen more of House Atreides versus the other houses on screen before, in your prep for this role, did you learn any, I guess, like teeny tiny small details about the house that kind of surprised you and wound up informing your performance?
Yeah, I tried not to look too far ahead because obviously we're 10,000 years before Paul Atreides is born. So, we kind of, I didn't want to do anything that was future because that's not real to him yet. But definitely looking back into the books and the sisterhood and working with Alison and being able to know as much as possible of the backstory and where they are, and knowing that we see some of that in the future is the prep that I used for that.
I'll take that. All right, Sarah-Sofie, I'm coming down the line now. So with Princess Inez, she's kind of caught between the throne and the sisterhood. So at the start of the show, does she feel a stronger pull to one over the other, or do they kind of go hand in hand for her?
I think for her, she wants to combine the two because when we meet her in the show, like she's ready to live up to being the heir to the Golden Throne, but she very much wants to do things her way. And that one of those things is, wanting to go to the sisterhood because she looks up to these women and, she wants to be powerful and in control, and she wants to use all those abilities in the future as the future ruler. Yeah.
I respect the ferocity and how steadfast she is as like her own person in this world. So another place in her life where we kind of see that balance is in her fighting skills. With the training, can you kind of differentiate the particular fight skills she uses that pertains to her training in the realm versus in the sisterhood?
Yeah, well, they're just different forms of fighting, the Atreides style that we were training a lot is one way, and then there's the whole fighting of the sisterhood that Kasha's been teaching Nez from a young age. So, and I think she just does both. It's kind of like her gym when we meet her in the show, right? Yeah.
She works hard at it, definitely.
Yeah.
That she does. I've already gotten a good taste of that in the first episode. I'll pose this to all three of you with the training and put you on the spot a little bit. When it comes to the sword fighting and beyond of everyone in this ensemble, who picked up on that stunt work the quickest?
Chris, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. How so?
Yeah.
He put in those hours.
He put in the hours, and naturally, I think, I think you're just really good at it.
Oh, thank you. But,
right?
I think when I got the role and they released the press thing and it says sword master in it, you feel that pressure of like, all right, well, I better be good at this. But we had a great stunt team, and, we started day one training with the stunt team, kind of first meetings. And I look back at those videos and we're slow and robotic and we know nothing, but we got through it. And I think the most important thing is, we've made it look good, but also safe and feeling safe with each other, especially because we had some really good scenes together with that.
He doesn't give himself enough credit.
No.
In between scenes, he would go.
Yeah.
So a true sword master. I'll stick with that a quick second longer. When it comes to his particular fight skills and techniques, is there anything about him that makes him unique, that would make him stand out from any other sword master we see out there?
There is a kind of Atreides style, and it's similar to what we see in the movies. And this was designed by the stunt team that worked on the movies, and then we got to work with them too. And it's loosely based on Balintawak, which is like a Filipino style. So there's a certain way that they hold the sword up against the shoulder to start, and that's kind of what Kieran teaches. And it's supposed to be the most efficient way in fighting, and that's what's got him to where he is.
All right, Josh, you're next up now.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the show, he actually does have kind of like a sex, drugs, and rock and roll vibe because he does play an instrument too. How does that behavior speak to, I guess, his history and how he operates within this world?
Yeah, I think Constantine, the same as Nez, kind of grew up in a pressure cooker of upbringing. So I think like anyone with unlimited resources, they'd look to some sort of outlet, and I guess Nez went down the training route and seeking power and I guess developing herself, whereas Constantine, I think because he's not next in line for the throne, he kind of went down just, I guess, falling headfirst into his vices, whether it be drug, sex, and alcohol. But yeah, I think he's trying to figure it out. Now he's on this path where he could go one way or the other, and he's kind of exploring that.
You said alcohol, I said rock and roll. He's playing an instrument there.
With rock, yeah, maybe I should have said rock and roll.
How exactly does one train themselves to play a mythical instrument?
When I first found out that I was going to be playing the ballast, I went straight to YouTube to try and figure out that was like 3 videos, so it doesn't exist. But yeah, no, I had a coach for that, and then we kind of figured out like basing it, I guess, between a cello and a guitar, and then moving up and down the I guess the chords and how that would work. But it was fun. Yeah, it was much more timing as opposed to actually playing this instrument.
Big group question, because one of many impressive elements of the show are the extensive practical sets and also the highly detailed costume work and props as well for each of you. Is there any teeny tiny detail in that respect that, I don't know, kind of surprised you in terms of how much it informed your performance and who your character became, or how key it was to getting enveloped in this world?
One for me, Kieran's sword, which is an Atreides sword. I actually don't think he uses it much in the series, but it was made, and because he's always in the training room with the training swords or something like that. But that sword and holding that, and even practicing kind of holding it above my head in the Atreides way, it might not be in the series, but it's definitely something that kind of got me into that space.
Yeah, I think also like how the costume department, like, they're so impressive, and everyone working in that department, and also of course the set designs as well, but the costume designers, they made sure that every costume was representing the personality of the character as well, like small details where they would, like for Naz, for instance, even though she's wearing these very like royal gowns and all that, there will always be something that's her personality that will make it a little bit edgier.
Can you give me an example, particularly in the gown she's wearing at the end of episode 1?
Yeah, like the leather. So like there's some leather details that you'll see on a lot of her dresses. That's kind of like her thing, and also the boots that she's wearing, which like kind of balances that long, beautiful, very feminine dress with the like heavy boots. That just those tiny edges that makes it her personality.
For Constantine, I wanted him to have a lot more jewelry. So he has like this ear cuff thing. It's like this gold piece there, and then he has basically every single finger is covered with a ring. And I kind of wanted, I guess, that rock and roll thing that you were speaking about earlier. I kind of wanted him to have, I guess, a bit more of an edge. And he's, I guess, within the constructs of wearing the formal gowns and imperial costumes, I wanted him to add his own little flavor to it. So even his boots that you see earlier on in the season, they're a bit more, I guess, grungy, and then as he later progresses, and he's going, I guess, across his character arc, it changes to become a little bit more formal. But yeah, I wanted him to have that, I guess, that grunge, and that you can see that he goes between the two worlds, between, I guess, the higher classes and the lower classes, like in the Spice Den. I wanted him to have a bit of both.
Yeah. And I think that's like that cool thing about, like, for our characters, like how they're in these like very formal wear, royal wear, but they always make sure to show their personalities. Like, I feel that speaks a lot about the characters as well, that they are rebellious, there are like small, I
love details like that.
Yeah.
All right, to wrap with all of you, I have a big question to tease what's to come later in the season. Of all of the episodes on the way, which particular one are you most looking forward to fans seeing, and can you lightly tease why?
For me, it's for me, it's episode 4. I feel like there's so many things happening for Princess Inez, and like but it's just all of them are so great. But personally, episode 4 I really love.
Could see that.
Mine would be episode 5. I think there's a lot of stuff that comes through there. There's 5's great. It's kind of everything's slowly starting to come to a head, and all the storylines are converging. And Constantine, it's a very, I guess, big story arc episode.
Yes.
I'm going to say episode 6 because the finale is, the script was insane.
Yeah. That's the thing, it's so hard to choose, right?
With 6 episodes, they're all so good, but episode 6.
That's exactly how it should be.
Okay, episode 6. Now I'm like, okay.
You wish to serve the great houses and shape the flow of power. You must first exert power over yourself.
I'm going to start with 2 of my favorite character tease questions. For your characters, can you tell me what is their greatest strength at the very beginning of the season? But then I also want to know their greatest weakness, the thing that could do them in pursuit of becoming a stronger sister.
Lila's is the same thing, I think. I think her empathy is her biggest strength and her biggest weakness.
Chloe, that is such a good answer. How do I follow that? I think Theo's strength is to be able to see people and understand them completely, what they want, what they need, what their true desires are. I think that's her biggest strength. And her weakness is needing Valia.
Ooh, both good answers. I will tell you, no spoilers, but that strength hits a different way.
Hey.
Hits a different way. So here's my other favorite character tease question to ask. At the very beginning of the season, who do they trust the most, and which other character do they fear the most?
Fear. Ooh. I think Lila trusts Tula the most at the start of the season. Who does she fear? Herself.
Huh.
Yeah.
We're fire this morning. I think Theo trusts Valia the most. And I think she probably, I can't say fears herself.
Is it true? Because if it's true, you can say it.
I actually think she fears Valia the most as well.
I was wondering if you would go in that direction. I still don't quite know what to make of that, but I am getting the hints that that might be the case, or that might be necessary.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm still in the dark on certain things. So with the sisterhood, it is all about, unity. Everyone is one in the sisterhood, but obviously you can't completely erase someone's individual identity. So for each of you, what are some specific qualities you wanted to give your character so that they stand out amongst the group?
I wanted Theo to have a bit of mystery, a bit of... I think it's hard because I think the sisterhood for Theo is necessary. It's a necessary place to be. It's a place to be safe and to feel safe and to feel part of something. But also I think there's an element of her knowing that she can be very good at this and that she's like, when they do the training to become an acolyte, I think there's like no doubt in her mind she's going to like advance to the next stage. Like she can do this with her eyes closed. So having that, but like also like it's that she doesn't really go to make friends, but she also doesn't want to be like pushed to the side or like picked out. And so she has to kind of like blend in. So she tries her best to kind of be like, yeah, hi guys, let's chat at the table. But also she doesn't need them.
Oh, I'm going to interrupt and follow up on that really quickly. So she's essentially like the top of her class. And when someone has that kind of power, they can wield it in a variety of different ways. They can be quite conceited about it or use it to lift others up around her. So where does she fall on that divide?
Yeah, I think that was part of the joy of playing her, is that I think she really is good at, she's like she reads the room really well. She can read a room really well. And so she's like, okay, they need to hear this. There's like a moment in, I think, is it Ep 1 or 2? I can't remember, where Lila asks her something because she's like worried about something. And she just basically goes, I'm going to give you a little bit and then I'm going to let you deal with it. And I'm out of this conversation because I'm over this. Do you know what I mean? So it's like she's tiptoeing around the thing of like, I don't want you to know too much about me. So I'm just going to give you as little as you need. Okay. Yeah, which is... probably quite frustrating to be around.
How about for Lila now? Something, quality you wanted to give her to make her stand out from the rest of the sisterhood?
I think her naivety, it kind of, I mean, it's not hard to give her because I think it's very obvious in the first episode that, she's kind of seen as a bit of an underdog. But I think a lot of people assume that naivety is like a terrible thing. It's something they want to avoid, like it's not useful. But I think if anything, like it makes Lila powerful in a different way. She's like not afraid to be vulnerable and she's not afraid to seek that vulnerability in other people. Because I think a lot of these sisters are really concerned with their own journey and what's going on with themselves, while Lila's quite observant in that way.
Yeah, you really you listen.
She listens.
So like you're taking everything in, whereas other people are, a lot of other people are like dealing with their own.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful attribute to have. So I think, yeah, Lila's naivety.
That's a good answer too. I'll build on that one as well. So at the beginning of the show, she is kind of being supported by, I guess in particular, Sister Jen and Tula the most in particular. So with that relationship, what are they giving her that she lacks, and what does she need to do next to kind of find the power of her own voice in this space?
Well, with Tula, I think it's, that mother figure that she's never had. She's always questioned where she comes from. She doesn't know what's happened with her family in the past. She has no clue. And I think Tula gives her that validation and that care that a mother can only give. And with Sister Jen, I feel like Jen's the first person in the sisterhood who cares about Lila without there being an ulterior motive there. And I feel like Lila can definitely see through that. And I feel like that's what she kind of latches onto with Jen, is because she's the first person who doesn't have to put her down to feel, you know, like they're worthy in themselves. So I think, yeah, for Tula, it's very basic human connections. For Tula, it's like the mother connection, and for Jen, it's like that first best friend that she never really had. And I feel like they both, in sometimes opposing ways, are trying to help Lila figure out what she wants to do.
Oh, she's caught in the middle. I feel it in the middle. So you have many, many wonderful cast members around you. In particular, I must focus on Emily and Olivia because they are icons in this industry. And when you work with icons, I imagine you go in with certain expectations. So can you tell me something about each of them that exceeded those expectations?
Emily is, as well as being like a very good serious actor, she leads the cast really well. I do a lot with her. She's brilliant. She made me step up my game, but also she loves a TikTok dance.
I love that you're exposing this. She loves a TikTok dance.
I'm going to say the video is in the world. It's not public, but one day it will be.
Can you tell me what dance?
I'll leak
I
it.
love how I'm asking this like I'm going to know what dance you're talking about. But
I don't know what dance I'm doing. Basically, there were...
It was a TikTok dance that was trending at the time. That some of the cast who play the younger versions of, like Valia and Tula and, you know...
flashback stuff.
Yeah, they kind of started the whole TikTok revolution in our WhatsApp group.
And meanwhile, me and Emily were like stuck somewhere in the dark. And Emily was like, I want to do that. And I was like, do you? She was like, yeah. I was like, fine. So I taught her the dance. We videoed it, sent it back to the guys, and it's honestly amazing.
Yeah.
She's also in full Reverend Mother gear. It's like, it's insane.
Listen, I'm really excited to see the rest of the season, but I think now I'm anticipating release.
That's what the hype is.
You only get to unlock that once you've seen the last episode.
Oh, I will race to the finish line as fast as I can now for a multitude of reasons. How about for you now?
Working, because I did most of my stuff with Olivia. I mean, I was really nervous. I think my first day filming was with Olivia, and I was really, really nervous just because I know how great she is. She's a brilliant actor. But I think what exceeded my expectation was how like close we became. Like she became my friend, and like she took me to concerts, and I was on her shoulders, and like and I feel she took me to a concert, there's this festival in Budapest called Sziget, and one of my favorite artists called Loyal Kana was playing there, and no one like could go with me at the time because everyone was like either flying home or they had a really busy schedule, and Olivia was like, I'll take you, and she came, and Shalom came along with us, and I think when you're friends with people, it's easier to act with them, and it's easier, especially with a relationship.
You were literally on Olivia Williams' shoulders.
I was on her shoulders, shouting like lyrics, like to it was.
Cool. You can't see.
It's a core memory, and so I think, especially with like Lila and Tula's relationship. Yeah, me and Olivia definitely created that bond in a way, and I felt like, you know, there was some kind of mother-daughter qualities of our relationship where, like, if we needed to if I was nervous and I wanted to run a scene with her, I could do that. Like, and she was very protective of me. There was like times where I always, for some reason, had my feet out. Like Lila is always shoeless, and she was always worried about me being cold and like getting me a blanket and stuff. So yeah, I think what exceeded my expectations is just how much of a cool person she is. I mean, I already knew she was gonna be cool, but I didn't know she was gonna be that cool. Yeah.
Those answers make me so happy. I'll wrap here with a look to the future of the show, just to give everybody a little tease of what's to come. Can you each tell me which episode of Dune Prophecy Season 1 you are most excited for fans to get to experience, and tell me a little why?
6. For me, it's 6 because I think they'll find out a lot about Lila in episode 6, and a lot that changes the potential of the future of the sisterhood.
Whoa, that's big. I mean,
it's pretty big.
That's pretty big, yeah. I was going to say, like, I think from the end of 4 gets cool for Theo, and then it just builds from there. 5 and 6 is just another level.
The more influence our sisterhood gains, the more enemies we make.
So first, it can mean a variety of different things to be a good leader in this universe. How would she define being a good empress?
So I think Natalia would define leadership in terms of trusting your own instinct and being your own person.
Being your own person, separate from her husband at times, perhaps. How would you describe how they either align or don't on most matters?
I think the fundamental difference between Natalia and Emperor Carino is really this, relationship toward the sisterhood. I think that Natalia really is deeply suspicious of his over-reliance on the sisterhood and the way in which it's kind of completely emasculated his sense of agency and leadership. So that's the real difference.
Oh, I want to ask for more details so badly. I know I cannot, so I will veer towards a safer question because I love asking about working with a good scene partner, and you have an absolute legend opposite you in Mark Strong. So what is something about him as a scene partner that you appreciated, maybe even something he did that helped you reach something in your own character that you wouldn't have been able to without him?
I mean, Mark is just... he's extraordinary. He's unbelievably generous, as all the best actors are, in my opinion. He's, I guess he's funny. He's a great partner because, there are long days. There are lots of scenes where you got to keep things fresh, and he's just a consummate professional. He never flags. He is someone who really gives you a sense of, anything is possible and raises your game. And that's what every actor wants.
I will dare to follow up on that. Can you maybe give us an example that we could look out for in the finished show where he did something that kept a scene fresh for you and it changed for the better because of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, there are these incredible scenes which are in the throne room, and you can easily feel like, the detail in terms of what's going on with the subtext between characters is lost. But he gives a sort of incredible complexity to those scenes because he gives us such an insight into, a leader who is struggling. And it's a quality that we so rarely associate with Mark because, he's always playing these incredibly strong characters. So obviously, I personally found that absolutely fascinating to watch on set. And, I think those scenes were all the richer for it.
You just brought up the sets, so I'll veer in that direction. But actually also like sets, costume design, the props here, they're just all wonderful looking and the detail is off the charts. Can you give me an example of maybe a small detail that, I don't know, really struck you and either heavily influenced who your character became or just contributed to getting you enveloped in this world?
I think there's an incredible use in terms of the costumes. There's a lot of play with these sort of headpieces, with these kind of metal decorations or, accessories to the costumes, which really play on this symbolism of jewelry and power and ostentation, but also, give a sense of characters who are held in, who are confined, by these kind of structural costumes. And so I loved all of that. I thought that was really useful for my character as well.
I'll wrap with a big tease question for the future of the season. Which episode are you most looking forward to fans seeing? And can you briefly tease why?
Well, I think episode 4 at the moment is really exciting. I think that there's a kind of real merging that happens between what we're used to seeing of the Dune universe and this much more kind of fresh territory that's been unexplored. And I think, that is an exciting moment for any fan.
There was a time when you took my views seriously. Instead of allowing those sorceresses to woo you.
First question for both of you, because you've both worked on significant productions in the past, but working on something in the Dune franchise just feels like a next level challenge to me. So Travis, for you, what is an acting first you experience working on Prophecy? And also Jordan, for you, what is a producing first you experience making this series?
New experiences are, I don't know, one of the most enjoyable experiences is how collaborative the writers are and the creatives. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. Some of the sets, you've never seen it on TV. They're just beautiful. And technology that's used. There's some cool little technical things that kids will want for Christmas, that's on the show.
Yeah, I mean, as a producer, I guess, the things that I've been involved in have been like for the films, the big screen epics for the movies. I guess the challenge is when you're doing it for television, it's like you have to do that every single episode, and you have less time to do it in. So it's an amazing challenge, but it's fun, and luckily we're blessed with an amazing cast and crew to pull it off.
Having worked on book to series projects before, what are some, I guess, adaptation rules you've developed that you were able to apply to Prophecy to make this show even stronger?
Right. Well, you have to respect the canon. I mean, the canon. First of all, the canon is amazing, and there's a lot of really intriguing things that it does, both on a character level and at an idea level. So you want to respect it, and you want to kind of conjure it. We get to, in this story, really kind of pull back the veil, I guess, so to speak, on probably one of the more iconic aspects of it, which is the sisterhood, which then becomes the Bene Gesserit. And when you do that, you just gotta use kid gloves to do it. You have to make sure you get it right. Every little detail has to be right. It's arduous, but again, it's invigorating to pull it off.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's not a difficult balance to hit when you're making something for a hardcore fan base, but you're also making a show that needs to function as an on-ramp for newcomers. But I was very impressed by how you navigate that.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. I mean, look, writing it as a television show, you always have to come character first, and when you do that, you're able to kind of make it epic, but make it intimate at the same time.
Makes all the difference in the world. So speaking of those characters, Travis. Desmond, I got a big two-part question about signing on because he is a mighty complex character. When you first took this role, what single aspect of him were you most looking forward to playing? But then can you also tell me something you discovered about him along the way that wound up making him even more creatively fulfilling to play than you could have imagined?
The most intriguing thing that I liked is complexity. You don't know if it's good guy or bad guy. It just sort of, it feels like one big riddle, which I really enjoy, and I think that's what mostly attracted to me. The writing's so good. It just keeps people guessing. It's pretty simple like that. You're not sure what he's actually thinking, so that's enjoyable. And what did I discover along the way? I discovered, because obviously I only read I think the first 2 scripts maybe. So then once I read 3, 4, and 5, and 6, there was there's a lot more to him than you first think, and the writing's so good and complex, and I just think it's just given me as an actor so much makes it easy to be engaged in him,
So when we first meet him in the show, he seems to have so much confidence with how he's navigating this whole situation. So it was making me wonder, in episode 1, what other character do you think he fears the most?
Something very empowering. He's very honest, and he's very righteous in his beliefs. So I think that's very empowering, gives a person confidence, if you don't have to lie and sort of bullshit your way through stuff. It's like when you get pulled over by the cops and you haven't done anything wrong. You have a confidence,
He's keeping me on my toes, and I like it. Jordan, here's a burning question I had for you as far as the visuals in the series go, because one thing you all opted to not do here was use the volume, which is an interesting choice given how popular that technology is right now. Can you kind of walk us through making that decision and why going a different route better suited the show you wanted to make?
Right. I mean, the volume is a great technology, but one of the biggest obstacles is that you really got to be ahead of it. You have to know exactly how your story is going to go, know exactly how your camera angles are going to go. I mean, it requires a great deal of pre-gaming to pull it off effectively. We wanted a little bit more freedom to approach our big visual effects extravaganza moments. Luckily, we had a great visual effects team under Mike Enriquez and Taryn Pratt. They helped us build out these amazing worlds. We go to quite a few planets in our series, and it's worked. So we were able to pull it off not using the volume.
looks quite good.
Yeah.
Travis, for you now, kind of digging into the sets, the costume design, and also the props. Is there any specific element you can highlight in any of those departments that influenced your performance the most, or just maybe heavily contributed to enveloping you in this world?
Oh, I think it all contributes. The sets just blow my mind. Every day you walk on to this just magnificent set, and it's crazy what people can build these days. And the imagination and that goes into it, and the details. You know, it's a big epic sort of show and sets, but every little tiny detail that the camera gets has to be perfect. And I think people should be blown away by it. I think.
You got a favorite tiny detail?
Tiny detail. No, I don't have a favorite. No, I just the land thread. No, I don't have a favorite.
I've got a favorite detail. You should talk about this. Yeah, you opted to have multiple rings on your fingers.
Oh.
And when we cut these scenes together, it's funny how it almost acts as its own like real world ticking clock. It just really gets under people's skin by kind of drumming the rings against each other, which I think was a really good choice you made there. It's interesting.
Well, that's a good one. All right, I'll wrap with a question to kind of tease what's to come through season 1 for each of you. Can you pick which episode you are most looking forward to fans getting to experience, and briefly tease why?
6, because a lot of questions are answered, but then it still sets up more questions to be answered. You know.
I like that answer. I'll take that.
I think that's a great answer. I think you'll learn some stuff you didn't expect to know that has happened.
The sisterhood, they hide in your camp and do our thinking for us.
So first, you've worked on quite a few shows with significant source material or maybe even original lore. What is something about the Dune Prophecy show Bible that was different, a different kind of information that you had to have on hand in order to execute this story and do it well?
Well, you're right. I love a show that creates a world, like, for sure. And I think Dune's vision, it's science fiction as a science fiction classic. The fact that we're kind of in a post, war, our show very much in the shadow of the Great Machine Wars, and that humanity is battling back from the brink of extinction and kind of rebuilding itself. And we're in this kind of interstellar feudal government. And it just has this ancient futurism, and the technology is banned, so computers and artificial intelligence are not, our people are terrified of them and are considered suspect and against the law. I think that lends itself for a totally different kind of futurism, which is so specific and exciting to Dune.
It does have a very fresh feel, largely for that reason.
Yeah.
Now I've hit the $1 million question. What kind of conversations did you and the team have to ensure that Dune Prophecy satisfied the hardcore Dune fans, but also functioned as an on-ramp for newcomers?
Well, I mean, that was the ongoing conversation of the entire project, because it's what we want. We want to be able to tell a story that if you didn't know anything and you just were starting with the story of who is young Valia Harkonnen, how is she coming to found an organization that will shape power in the universe for millennia to come, that you would be interested. And that even if you just started there with these people, it was compelling enough that you could discover Dune through it. And at the same time, I'm a Dune fan, aware of all the Dune fans. We want to make sure that we're not in any way dumbing it down, that there's the complexity, that there's the philosophy, and that there's just the attention to detail and the world building that's so beautiful in the books, and that Denis realized in his films, that there's that too. And so that you can be literally having the conversation of where one person is enjoying talking to somebody who's seen it all, read it all, or not, and that the show could be a bridge.
So you just brought up the film, so I'll go there next. Is there a particular aspect of Dune lore that was untapped in the movies that we've seen thus far that you were especially eager to flesh out in your series?
Well, I mean, not to be super obvious, but the Bene Gesserit, for sure, that's the heart of our link. And I think in the films, you see them at the height of their power. They're institutionalized. They're pulling the levers. They're, coming in and being super scary and mysterious. And we get to go and see how that all started and really, go behind the veil, so to speak, and see but what I was saying is actually, I think the more you get to know them, the more mysterious and scary they are. And I think that's a great journey to be on. They don't reveal themselves to be sort of run-of-the-mill. Like, you're like, oh my God, it's very fun to peel back the layers.
So those are the broad strokes. I am curious, within the sisterhood, are there any, I guess, like teeny tiny details, whether it's in dialogue or even in a prop, that viewers should really keep an eye out for early on because it's going to influence the organization and the show more than they might expect?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't totally know how to answer that. I mean, like, you're going to see a lot of props that will play a role, and whether that is something as basic as like the Orange Catholic Bible, which is a, seminal text in the Dune universe, and we'll see that it's influenced our sisters from the very beginning, and is part of a sort of schism in the order. We'll have fun with, the Gom Jabbar is going to make an appearance, which is, one of their assassination tools of great mystery and renown. But to me, their whole thing, their costumes are, it's a little bit of an earlier iteration than we see in the films, but it's still kind of based on this notion that they used to need to go out in the world and mask themselves from machines and look less human. So the shape is so iconic. And I think that's fun to see.
I'll take that. Those are good examples.
Okay.
I'll end with this particular greedy question because season 1 hasn't even been released, but obviously I already want more. So with the story that you're looking to tell in total with Dune Prophecy, ideally, how many seasons do you think you need to serve it and serve it to the fullest?
That's so interesting. I'm not going to say a number, but I am going to say, look, we designed a season 1, I think, that is like satisfying, but we also are keenly aware that the Bene Gesserit has many layers to go through before they are the Bene Gesserit. In our series, they're the sisterhood. So like what fell apart about the sisterhood? How did that sort of reorganization and rebranding, to use a contemporary term, kind of come about? And that's not a one-season story to get all the way there. So we would love to answer that question over time.